Before you listen to this story, let me say this. Sometimes, the people we trust the most are the ones who leave the deepest scars. Sometimes, the loudest screams are the ones never heard. My name is Isla Carter, and this is my story. A story about love, betrayal, and the pain of losing someone who never really left. If you're watching this, I need you to subscribe to this channel, because the truth I'm about to share isn't just mine. It could be yours too, and maybe someone out there's still waiting to feel seen. Now, let me take you back to the night everything fell apart. It was supposed to be a normal summer evening, warm, golden, and quiet. The kind of evening my sister Lila and I used to treasure like a secret. The lake behind our grandfather's house in Vermont shimmered under a fading sky, and we sat at its edge, bare feet in the water, sharing stories about boys, books, and dreams, ordinary things. But by nightfall, only I would return from that lake, and nothing in my life would ever be ordinary again. They told me it was an accident, a fall, a slip. They said she drowned. But I knew my sister. She was a champion swimmer, fearless, calculated, strong. She didn't fall, she was taken. And for 7 years, I buried that truth deep inside me, trying to become someone else, someone quieter, someone who didn't remember the way her scream echoed across the water. But memories are never really silent. They whisper in your dreams. They follow you into adulthood, and they twist inside your chest until you can't breathe without wondering. And then, last month, I got a message, an anonymous email, 4 words, no subject, no attachments, just Lila didn't drown. Look closer. It shattered everything I had forced myself to forget. Suddenly, her face was everywhere, in the mirror, in old songs, in places she never saw. And then I started finding things, her old journal hidden in a suitcase my mother never unpacked, a necklace she swore she lost lying beneath the floorboards of the cabin, and a photo, one I had never seen. It was taken 2 days after her supposed death. The date stamped in the corner didn't lie, and in the photo, Lila was alive, her eyes wide, her lips trembling, and beside her, someone I knew, someone I trusted. That was when I knew everything they told me was a lie. The police report, the therapist's reassurances, my parents' silence, the whole town. They buried her with their secrets. And now I would dig her back out, even if it destroyed me. So I returned to the lake house, alone. No one knew I was there. I didn't bring friends. I didn't post about it. I had one goal, find out the truth. And that's when the messages started. Text messages from a blocked number. You shouldn't be here. Stop digging. You're next. I tried to trace them. I couldn't. I thought I was losing my mind until I found Lila's hidden phone, still wrapped in plastic, buried inside a rotted tree stump near the dock. It had 2 videos saved on it. One was corrupted. The other showed her crying, whispering, saying, I thought I could trust him. And that's when I saw his reflection in the window behind her. It was Caleb, my childhood best friend, the one who held my hand at her funeral, the one who cried with me on the floor of my dorm room, the one who kissed me on my 21st birthday and promised I'd never be alone. He was the last one to see her alive. My heart split in that moment between rage, betrayal, and horror, and yet I said nothing. I played it cool. I smiled at his texts. I said I missed him too. Because if I had learned anything from Lila, it was this: you can't win a war by screaming. You win by listening, watching, planning. I didn't want justice anymore. I wanted the truth. And then I'd decide what he deserved. Because if he did to her what I think he did, then I'd make sure he never saw his next summer. And I wouldn't even feel sorry. This is the beginning of what really happened, and if you've made it this far, don't forget to subscribe. The truth isn't over yet, and someone else is about to drown. I spent the next 3 days pretending to be someone I wasn't. Calm, forgiving, broken just enough to seem harmless. Caleb texted me like everything was normal, asking how I was doing. sending stupid memes we used to laugh at, even saying, "It still doesn't feel right without her." I wanted to scream, to send the video of Lila crying, to demand answers. But I didn't, not yet. Instead, I asked to meet at the old diner where we used to share milkshakes with Lila. Before everything drowned in silence, he smiled when he saw me, hugged me like nothing was different. But I saw it now, the shift in his body when I mentioned her name, the subtle twitch in his eye, the way he avoided direct questions with phrases like "you know how it was," or "we all just moved on." But I hadn't moved on, and neither had she. That night, I reviewed the video again, frame by frame. Lila whispering, crying, behind her, the glass, and Caleb's blurred reflection. But this time, I noticed something else. The same red hoodie he wore the day after her funeral. I remembered hugging him that day, smelling the lake water in his clothes, thinking it was from the dock. Now I knew it wasn't. It was from her. I started digging deeper. I visited the old high school security office and lied my way into archived footage from the day she vanished. It took hours. But I found a clip. Lila leaving school early. Not alone. With Caleb. They were arguing. She looked scared. And then, they were gone. The school never mentioned that. The police never asked questions. Why? Because Caleb's dad is Sheriff Ellis, the man who led her missing person case. The man who told me, sometimes grief makes us see what isn't there. And suddenly, everything made sense. The closed investigation, the quick funeral, the sealed autopsy, they covered it all. I couldn't breathe when I realized how deep this went. My hands shook as I texted Caleb. "Do you remember that day at the lake?" His reply came fast. "I remember everything. I asked him to meet me there, midnight, just like old times." And he agreed. I packed a voice recorder, a flashlight, and the old chain Lila used to wear around her ankle, the one I found buried in the woods, broken, stained with something too dark to be dirt. I sat on the dock, shaking, waiting. He came, quiet, hands in his pockets. Moonlight painted his face in shadows. "Why here?" he asked. I looked at him. "Because this is where everything ended." He paused, then smiled. "But it wasn't kind, it was knowing. Or maybe it's where it began," he said. I clenched my fists. "What did you do to her?" He sat beside me like nothing was wrong. "You think you're the only one who lost her," he whispered. "She was everything. And she knew what she did. She knew how to twist people. She pushed and pushed. And sometimes people break." I felt bile rise in my throat. "So you killed her?" His jaw tightened. "No, I tried to save her. From herself. From what she was becoming. But you wouldn't understand. You only saw her halo." I stood. "You lied to me for 7 years. I protected you," he said. "It's hard now. And my father protected me. Because people like us don't survive scandal. You would have died with her." I laughed bitterly. "No, Caleb, I lived without her. And now, you're going to tell the world what you did." He stood too, eyes cold. "No, I'm not." And that's when I realized he hadn't come alone. Sheriff Ellis stepped out from the trees, gun drawn, badge shining. "This has gone far enough, Isla," he said. "Let the past rest." "You murdered her," I said, stepping back. "You buried the truth. And now you want to bury me too." "It wasn't murder," he said. "It was an accident, a mistake. But it's over. Not if I tell the world," I said. "Not if I have proof." And I pressed record in my pocket. Caleb stepped forward. "Give me the phone." "Isla, no." "Then we'll take it." I turned and ran into the woods, heart pounding, branches slashing my skin. They followed. I don't know how I made it out. But I did, bruised, bleeding, breathless. I drove straight to the next town and uploaded the audio to a secure cloud. I knew now this wasn't just about my sister. It was about power, corruption, silence, and I was done being quiet. But before I could go public, the messages started again. From a different number, a new one, just for words. "You missed the truth." And attached, a second video. "Lila, not crying, not scared. Smiling with someone else, not Caleb, a girl one I didn't recognize. And suddenly, I wasn't sure if I knew anything at all. The second video shattered me not because it changed everything I believed, but because it made me realize I hadn't even started uncovering the real truth. I sat frozen in the motel room, the walls closing in around me as I watched the footage. On loop, Lila sat on a bed, laughing, not scared, not crying. She looked happy, freer than I'd ever seen her. A girl sat beside her, dark hair, nervous eyes, slender hands with chipped black nail polish. Lila held her pinky, whispered something into her ear. The girl smiled. There was affection there, more than that. Intimacy, love, and in the corner of the frame, a date. 2 days after her reported death. That meant to things Lila was alive longer than anyone said, and she wasn't alone. But I had never seen this girl before. Who was she? And why had no one, not even Caleb, mentioned her? I froze the frame and stared at the girl's face. Then I uploaded the video to a secure backup folder and made screenshots. Something about the girl tugged at the back of my mind, like I'd seen her before. I stayed up all night trying to place her. Then I remembered Lila's art notebook, the one she used to sketch when she didn't have the words to explain things. I had saved it all these years, tucked in the attic of the lake house. I returned the next morning, crawling through cobwebs and dust to pull it out. The drawings were their trees, faces, shadows, and then, on the last page, a girl's face, same eyes, same chipped nails, same tattoo on her wrist. Underneath, Lila had written, "Mar, my maybe." My heart cracked open. Lila had been in love and no one knew. Or maybe someone did. And that was the problem. I dug deeper, searched every local school database, yearbook, forum, and the first found her Mara Quinlan, 2 years older than Lila. She attended a private school 2 towns over, disappeared the same week Lila died. Her case was closed with the same generic conclusion: runaway, no foul play suspected, no. Investigation reopened. I called every number listed for Mara's family disconnected, visited the old address abandoned. But I wasn't letting go. I posted a classified note online on a missing persons forum. If you knew Mara Quinlan or Isla Carter, please contact me. Private, urgent. I left an encrypted email. Days passed, no response. Until the 5th night, 2:37 a.m. One message: "You're asking questions that get people buried. Meet me tomorrow 4 p.m. behind St. Aidan's Chapel." No name, no clue who sent it. I packed pepper spray to burn our phones and printed copies of the screenshots. When I arrived at the chapel, the lot was empty. The wind picked up. My heart raced. Then a voice behind me: "You're Lila?" I turned. A girl in a hood, sharp eyes. She lowered the hood. It was Mara. Not a video, not a memory. Alive. "You're supposed to be dead," she said. So was Lila. I couldn't speak. She looked different, hollowed out. "But real. Why didn't you come forward?" I asked. "Why fake your death?" Her eyes watered. "Because I didn't fake anything. I ran," she explained. Everything: how Lila had confided in her about someone watching her, following her, how Sheriff Ellis once visited her at school unannounced, warning her to stay quiet, how Lila had planned to run away with Mar, using a fake ID and cash she'd been hiding. But 2 days before they were supposed to leave, Lila disappeared. Moore tried to report it, tried to speak out, but the threats came quickly. Anonymous notes. Her parents were fired from their jobs. She was nearly expelled. One night, someone broke into her home while she was asleep and left her journal shredded on the floor. She knew then, if she stayed, she'd vanish next. So I disappeared. First, she said. But I never stopped looking. My hand shook. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I didn't know who I could trust. You were close to Caleb, and he's not who he pretends to be." I told her about the video, the lake, the recording. She nodded. "That's not even the worst of it." Lila told me about something else, something she found, something hidden. A journal that wasn't hers, filled with symbols, codes, names. She said it was connected to something bigger, that she was going to give it to someone to expose. Do you know where it is? I asked. Mara hesitated. No. But I know what she called it. She said it was the silent book, and that if anything happened to her, it would surface. I drove back with a storm in my chest. Lila hadn't just died. She had discovered something, a secret, maybe a crime, and she died trying to expose it. But what was in that book? And why did Caleb and his father bury her so fast? The next morning, I returned to the lake house, searched every corner. I almost gave up until I remembered the place Lila always called her hideout, a small gap under the basement floorboards. Behind the water heater, I pried it open. There, wrapped in plastic, was a red leather notebook. I opened it. My breath stopped. Inside were pages filled with initials, dates, hidden meeting locations, names I recognized from our town, teachers, police, judges, a network of men covering each other, grooming girls, hiding truths, a ring. Lila had uncovered something monstrous, and they killed her for it. I stared at the last page, scrawled in panic. If I disappear, it's because they found out. Tell Lila I love her. Tell her to finish what I started. I collapsed to the floor, crying harder than I had in years. And when I finally stood up, I knew what I had to do. Expose them, all of them. But first, I needed help, and the only person who might know how to do this without getting me killed was Mara. But by the time I called her phone, it was disconnected again. The second video shattered me not because it changed everything I believed, but because it made me realize I hadn't even started uncovering the real truth. I sat frozen in the motel room, the walls closing in around me as I watched the footage on loop. Lila sat on a bed, laughing, not scared, not crying. She looked happy, freer than I'd ever seen her. A girl sat beside her, dark hair, nervous eyes, slender hands with chipped black nail polish. Lila held her pinky, whispered something into her ear. The girl smiled. There was affection there, more than that, intimacy, love, and in the corner of the frame, a date, 2 days after her reported death. That meant to things. Lila was alive longer than anyone said, and she wasn't alone. But I had never seen this girl before. Who was she? And why had no one, not even Caleb, mentioned her? I froze the frame and stared at the girl's face. Then I uploaded the video to a secure backup folder and made screenshots. Something about the girl tugged at the back of my mind, like I'd seen her before. I stayed up all night trying to place her. Then I remembered Lila's art notebook, the one she used to sketch when she didn't have the words to explain things. I had saved it all these years, tucked in the attic of the lake house. I returned the next morning, crawling through cobwebs and dust to pull it out. The drawings were their trees, faces, shadows, and then, on the last page, a girl's face, same eyes, same chipped nails, same tattoo on her wrist. Underneath, Lila had written, Mar, my maybe. My heart cracked open. Lila had been in love and no one knew. Or maybe someone did. And that was the problem. I dug deeper, searched every local school database, yearbook, forum, and the first found her Mara Quinlan, 2 years older than Lila. She attended a private school 2 towns over, disappeared the same week Lila died. Her case was closed with the same generic conclusion. Runaway, no foul play suspected, no. Investigation reopened. I called every number listed for Mara's family, disconnected, visited the old address abandoned. But I wasn't letting go. I posted a classified note online on a missing persons forum. If you knew Mara Quinlan or Isla Carter, please contact me. Private, urgent. I left an encrypted email. Days passed, no response. Until the 5th night, 2:37 a.m. One message. You're asking questions that get people buried. Meet me tomorrow 4 p.m. behind St. Aidan's Chapel. No name, no clue who sent it. I packed pepper spray to burn our phones and printed copies of the screenshots. When I arrived at the chapel, the lot was empty. The wind picked up. My heart raced. Then a voice behind me. You're Lila? I turned. A girl in a hood. Sharp eyes. She lowered the hood. It was Mar. Not a video. Not a memory. Alive. You're supposed to be dead, she said. So was Lila. I couldn't speak. She looked different, hollowed out. But real. Why didn't you come forward? I asked. Why fake your death? Her eyes watered. Because I didn't fake anything. I ran, she explained. Everything how Lila had confided in her about someone watching her, following her, how Sheriff Ellis once visited her at school and announced, warning her to stay quiet. How Lila had planned to run away with Mar, using a fake ID and cash she'd been hiding. But 2 days before they were supposed to leave, Lila disappeared. Mar tried to report it, tried to speak out, but the threats came quickly. Anonymous notes. Her parents were fired from their jobs. She was nearly expelled. One night, someone broke into her home while she was asleep and left her journal shredded on the floor. She knew then. If she stayed, she'd vanish next. So I disappeared. First, she said. But I never stopped looking. My hand shook. Why didn't you tell us names? She said it was connected to something bigger. That she was going to give it to someone to expose. Do you know where it is? I asked. Mara hesitated. No. But I know what she called it. She said it was the silent book. And that if anything happened to her, it would surface. I drove back with a storm in my chest. Lila hadn't just died. She had discovered something. A secret. Maybe a crime. And she died trying to expose it. But what was in that book? And why did Caleb and his father bury her so fast? The next morning, I returned to the lake house, searched every corner. I almost gave up until I remembered the place Lila always called her hideout, a small gap under the basement floorboards, behind the water heater. I pried it open. There, wrapped in plastic, was a red leather notebook. I opened it. My breath stopped. Inside were pages filled with initials, dates, hidden meeting locations, names I recognized from our town, teachers, police, judges, a network of men covering each other, grooming girls, hiding truths, a ring. Lila had uncovered something monstrous, and they killed her for it. I stared at the last page, scrawled in panic. If I disappear, it's because they found out. Tell Lila I love her. Tell her to finish what I started. I collapsed to the floor, crying harder than I had in years. And when I finally stood up, I knew what I had to do. Expose them, all of them. But first, I needed help, and the only person who might know how to do this without getting me killed was Mara. But by the time I called her phone, it was disconnected again. The address Caleb gave me led to a small, crumbling farmhouse on the edge of an abandoned town called Hollow Creek, a place I'd only heard of in whispered stories from old locals who said the town had no soul left in it. The sky was gray when I arrived, the air thick with rain that hadn't fallen yet, and every step I took toward the rusty gate felt like walking deeper into a memory I didn't own. The house was swallowed by overgrowth, wild ivy crawling up its sides like it had been trying to strangle the place for decades. I hesitated at the porch. The front door had a single brass plaque. Quinn, no first name, no welcome. I knocked, no answer, just the low hum of wind whistling through broken windows. I was about to turn around when I noticed the mailbox, half hanging off its hinges, with something sticking out, an envelope, my name written in red ink. Isla. My fingers trembled as I opened it. Inside, a photograph of Lila, but not one I'd ever seen. She looked older, stronger, different. She stood beside a man, older, long hair, sharp eyes. On the back of the photo were 2 words, Avery knows, and then a voice from inside the house. You're late. I spun. A figure stood in the hallway, tall, lean, with silver-streaked hair and a face that looked like it had forgotten how to smile decades ago. I didn't expect her sister, he said. But here you are. Are you Avery Quinn? I asked. Depends who's asking. Isla Carter, Lila's sister. He blinked once, long, then nodded. Then I suppose owe you the truth. He motioned me inside. The living room smelled like dust and old grief. Piles of newspapers, walls lined with photos of girls. Dozens, maybe more. Who are they? I whispered. Victims, he said. Survivors, ghosts, all connected to the circle, I echoed. You mean the people in the journal? That journal is a crack in the surface, he said. The circle is the ground beneath your feet. He sat, lit a cigarette with shaking fingers. I used to be part of it, years ago, before I realized what it really was. And what was it? I asked. A system, a machine, disguised as mentorship, community service, internships. But in reality, a ring, trafficking, control, blackmail. Each man at the top protected the others. And Lila, she found their ledger. I pulled out the red journal. This, he shook his head. No, that was her journal. The ledger was separate and more dangerous. Where is it? I asked. Gone. He said, burned, but not. Before she copied parts into her diary, why did you give her the truth? I asked. I didn't. She found me, cornered me, demanded answers. She was relentless and brave and scared. He looked away. She told me she was going to meet someone, said she had enough to expose the entire system. I warned her, but she wouldn't listen. Who was she meeting? I asked. She never said, just that they were part of the circle and claimed they wanted out. My blood ran cold. Do you think it was Caleb? Could be, or his father, or someone worse. I showed him the photo, this man with her. Is that you? He took it, stared for a long moment. No, he said. But I know him. Who is he? James Wren. He stood, went to a drawer, and pulled out an old article. The headline, local reporter found dead in suspected overdose. My hand shook. He was a journalist, investigative. He got too close, started asking questions about missing girls. One day, gone, they said overdose. I say execution. And he knew Lila. I asked. He followed her. She gave him something, a flash drive, I think. But it never surfaced. My stomach dropped. So there's a second piece of evidence, if it still exists, he said. I felt dizzy, my mind spinning with names, secrets, threats. Why are you helping me? I asked. Avery looked tired, older than his face showed. Because I didn't help her, and I have to live with that. He handed me a card, a single address. This is where Wren's apartment used to be. Maybe something's still there, but be careful, they watch it. I left the house as the first drops of rain finally fell. I drove through the storm, lightning slicing the sky as I reached the abandoned building where James Wren once lived. I broke in through the side door, climbed 3 flights, and found his door still sealed with police tape, aged, brittle. I stepped inside. Dust coated everything. It smelled like mold and time. I searched every drawer, cupboard, floorboard. Hours passed. Nothing. Until I found the mirror. It was crooked. I adjusted it, and a compartment clicked behind it. Inside, a flash drive, labeled, Project Silent Book. My heart stopped. I grabbed it, ran to a motel, plugged it into my encrypted laptop. What I found made me nauseous. Videos, emails, photos, dozens of girls, file folders named with code words, Angel, Petal, Silent, and in one folder, Lila, her voice, her laugh, her testimony. If you're watching this, she said, then they got to me, but maybe not. You keep going. Don't let the quiet bury you. They hate the noise. So make them hear you. I sobbed, shaking, and then my screen glitched. A message flashed. We see you. Then black. My drive wiped. The footage, gone. But I had one copy saved. In the cloud, safe, hidden. I packed my things, called Jonah. We go live tomorrow. Are you sure? He asked. Yes, I said. They've taken too many. But before I could hang up, someone banged on my motel door. Hard. Repeatedly. I checked the peephole. No one. Just a note taped to the door. 4 words. Again, Mar is still alive. And a second note below it. If you want her back, come alone. No name, no address. Just coordinates, and a clock ticking down. I stared at the note taped to the motel door. heart pounding against my ribs like it was trying to escape the truth I just uncovered. Mara is still alive. That should have felt like hope, like a rope in the dark. But instead, it felt like bait. Below it, hindered in GPS coordinates, and a small claw icon, followed by a time. 2:00 a.m. I knew it was a trap. Every instinct inside me screamed to run, to alert Jonah, to hide. But I also knew that if Mara really was alive, she was out there waiting for someone to save her, someone who hadn't stopped, someone still fighting. I was all she had left. I packed light, one burner phone, a flashlight, a pen-sized recorder, and the only weapon I trusted, the truth. I memorized the coordinates, then tossed the paper into the motel trash, checking for anyone following me. The road was empty. I drove in silence. The further I went, the fewer the streetlights. Eventually, it was just me, my headlights, and the darkness wrapping around the road like a warning. The coordinates led to a crumbling cabin deep in the woods, about an hour outside Hollow Creek, the kind of place that didn't show up on maps. I parked me. I rushed over, hands shaking as I cut the ropes with the pocket knife I had stashed in my boot. "It's me, Mara. I've got you." She tried to speak, but her voice was hoarse. They know about the drive." I nodded. "They tried to wipe it. I saved one copy. It's encrypted." She grabbed my arm, tighter than I expected. "You can't trust anyone, not even." A door slammed behind me. My body froze. I turned. A shadow stepped forward. Not Caleb, not Sheriff Ellis, but someone worse, my father. "Hello, Isla," he said, voice calm to calm. "Didn't expect to see you here." My legs nearly gave out. "Dad, you were never supposed to get involved," he said, stepping closer. "You were the good one, the quiet one, Lila." She always asked too many questions. My will collapsed. You're one of them." "I built this circle," he said, "before Caleb's father, before Ren, before Avery." My hands trembled. "You killed her." "No," he said coldly. "I gave her a chance to walk away. She refused. That was her choice. I pulled Mur up. You're sick. I protected our family, our name, our future. And now you're destroying it. I'm exposing it." I spat. "The world will know. The videos, the journal, they're all backed up." He smiled. "Then I suppose this is goodbye." He reached into his coat. Gun. I shoved Mara to the side and ran, crashing through the window and into the woods, glass slicing my arm. He followed. I didn't stop. I ran until my lungs screamed. Behind me, gunshots, trees, shouts, then silence. I hid beneath an old wooden bridge, curled up, bleeding, clutching my recorder like a lifeline. When the sun rose, I was still alive. Barely. I texted Jonah. "He's part of it, my father. I have a voice recording. Get ready to drop it all." He replied, "Done. Midnight release. Full exposure." I returned for Mur. But the cabin was empty, chair broken, blood on the floor, no sign of her, no sign of him. They were gone, again. That night, Jonah published everything, every scan, every name, every detail. We used offshore servers, hidden links, auto backups. Within an hour, it was viral. The silent book exposed. News anchors, influencers, activists. Everyone was talking. Protests began. Names were arrested. Caleb's father, the principal, half the town council. But not him, not my father. He vanished. No trace, no footage, nothing. And neither did Mar. I gave testimony, took interviews, became the girl who wouldn't be silent. But inside, I was still searching, still haunted, until today, because this morning, I got a letter, no return address. Inside, a single photo, Mara, holding a baby, smiling, safe, and written on the back, "You saved more than you know. Thank you." And I dropped to my knees and cried, for Lila, for Mara, for every girl who never got to finish her story. This wasn't the end. This was just my beginning. And if you're hearing this, if you're watching this, promise me one thing: never let silence win. After the broadcast, the world shifted. For a while, it felt like the system was finally cracking, like sunlight was seeping through the rot. But even as headlines screamed justice, I knew the circle hadn't truly ended. It had scattered, relocated, hid deeper. Evil like that doesn't vanish. It adapts. The rests were just the surface. I received thousands of messages from girls across the country, even across oceans. They said, "That happened to me too," or "I thought I was crazy," or "You told my story." Some of them sent names, places, hidden clinics, underground retreats, mysterious summer camps. The sickle had roots everywhere, and someone had to pull them out. I was no longer just Isla Carter, the grieving sister. I was a hunter of ghosts, of buried truths. I built a map, digital, encrypted, of every name from Lila's journal, every pattern, every facility. Jonah created a private network called the Survivors List. It wasn't public. It wasn't safe to be, but it was real. We let victims submit tips anonymously, upload documents, share what they remembered. Each red dot that appeared on the map was another scar, another secret, another fight to win. The list grew daily, but some names kept repeating, names I hadn't seen before, like Whitmore Haven, a rehabilitation academy in Oregon, a modern facility for troubled girls run by donors linked to the same foundations in Lila's journal. I decided to go there, alone, posing as a new staff member, using forged documents and a fake identity Jonah crafted. My name? For this mission, Charlotte Vale. When I arrived, the facility was too clean, too quiet. Girls walked in pairs, always under supervision. They smiled too quickly, flinched too often. The counselors were robotic, like they were rehearsing lines. Something was off. On my third day, I met a girl named Amira, barely 15, eyes older than mine. She slipped me a note when no one was looking. It said, "They take us at night. Below, not all of us come back." My stomach dropped. That night, I followed the hallway past the staff dorms to a locked staircase marked "Maintenance Only." I picked the lock, descended into darkness. Below was a series of concrete tunnels, cold, damp, echoing. I followed muffled voices until I reached a heavy door. Through a crack, I saw a girl strapped to a metal chair, electrodes, screens, men in suits. One said, "She won't remember this by morning." Increase the dose. I nearly vomited. Mind control, trauma erasure. They weren't just hurting girls. They were erasing them. I recorded everything, got back to my room and uploaded the footage to Jonah. We scheduled another data drop. But before I could leave, alarm, screams, the door clicked open. Amira stood there. "Come now," she whispered. I followed her through smoke, chaos. Jonah had sent the footage to a journalist at a major paper. The press showed up. So did the feds. The facility collapsed. Another piece of the circle exposed. But they were getting smarter, moving faster, going darker. I realized I couldn't do this alone. So I started training, speaking, teaching other survivors how to document safely, how to protect themselves, how to speak without being silenced. The list became a movement, a quiet one, underground. But it was working. Cities I'd never visited were rising. Survivors holding vigils, whistleblowers coming forward. Every time I posted a new video, I started with the same words. If you're hearing this, you're not alone. Silence is their weapon. So let's be louder. But then, the messages started again. From a block number, just one line, "You forgot Colorado." And then an attachment, a photo of a girl in a hospital gown. Her wrist had the same tattoo Lila had sketched in her journal years ago. Below it, new circle, same rules. I knew then, this wasn't over. Not even close. The circle wasn't dying. It was evolving. And I had just become its biggest threat. The message haunted me, for words that wouldn't leave my mind. "You forgot Colorado." I hadn't. Not really. It was just that I hadn't gotten there yet. But whoever sent the message didn't just want me to go. They were summoning me. The photo they attached showed a girl, pale, frightened, sedated, in a hospital gown with a thin black tattoo near her wrist. 3 dots and a line. I remembered it from Lila's sketches. She had drawn it in the corner of one of her journal pages, labeled simply, "Property Mark." My stomach turned. I tracked the metadata from the photo. But the sender was smart. Everything was scrubbed. So I went back to the survivors list. Buried deep in the submissions was one report from 6 months ago. Anonymous, a girl named Daisy, who claimed she escaped from a psychiatric rehab center in Colorado Springs. She wrote, "It's not therapy. It's memory wiping. They put us in white rooms and erase what hurts. And what we know, there was an address, barely legible, Everpine Wellness Institute." It sounded peaceful, but I knew better. I flew to Denver with nothing but a carry-on, forged credentials labeling me as an investigative mental health consultant, and backup support from Jonah if things went sideways. They usually did. Everpine was tucked into the mountains, wrapped in fake tranquility. Glass walls, slow music, staff that smiled too perfectly. I shadowed an integration therapist named Rachel, who told me we help troubled girls reframe trauma. Memory is optional. That line froze my blood. On the surface, the place looked clean. But at night, I heard things, girls crying, doors slamming, machines humming. On my 3rd night, I snuck into the east wing, the one under renovation. But it wasn't being fixed, it was being used. I found a room labeled Data Lab. Inside were files, thick, confidential, and redacted, and at least 12 names I recognized from the list. Girls marked non-compliant were transferred to a place called Facility 9. No location, no GPS. Just a note, overlook clearance approved, circle tier 2. I took photos, videos. I was about to leave when I heard footsteps. I hid behind a file cabinet as 2 men in suits entered. One of them I recognized, not from real life, but from Lila's photos. His name was Dr. Morgan Kane, a high-level circle operator who was officially declared dead in 2012 after a staged boating accident. But he was here, real, alive. He said, "The Colorado site is compromised. Tell them to prepare a transport. We moved them to New Mexico in 2 days." My heart dropped. They were relocating. I had 48 hours. I texted Jonah everything. "Get whistleblowers ready. We need to expose this fast." He replied, "Uploading Colorado thread to the list now. You have 24 hours until this goes public. After that, we release." I returned to my room. But something was off. My suitcase had been moved. My burner phone missing. Then I found it. A note under my pillow. "You were warned." I didn't sleep that night. I stayed fully dressed. Back to the wall. One hand on a hidden blade I kept in my boot. At dawn, I slipped into the staff lounge to blend in, only to see the front desk monitors lit up with my photo. Enter it. Contain on site. Do not engage. I said, Isla Carter. They knew I was out of time. I stole a maintenance uniform, tucked my hair under a cap, and walked out the back door with a mop cart. 2 minutes later, alarm screamed, sirens, lights, the front gate slammed shut. But I was already down the mountain road on foot, blood pounding in my ears. I hitchhiked to a nearby bus station, breath shallow, praying I hadn't been followed. On the bus, an old woman beside me asked, "You okay, sweetheart?" I wanted to cry. Instead, I nodded. "Just tired." I sent Jonah a single text, "Blow it wide open," and he did. That night, the Everpine documents, the lab files, and voice clips I recorded went public on whistleblower blogs, survivor forums, and an anonymous Dropbox account. The media storm was instant. Within 12 hours, reporters were outside Everpine. The FBI issued a raid. Girls were freed. Dr. Morgan Kane disappeared again. But this time, we had names, photos, evidence, and more importantly, survivors. Daisy came forward. She said I saved her life. But the truth was, they saved mine. This wasn't just about Lila anymore. It was about every girl erased, every scream silenced, every truth buried under the word therapy. I gave a statement on a live stream that night. If you're watching this, please listen. What happened to my sister is happening everywhere. But you are not alone. If you've been hurt, speak. If you've been silenced, scream. If you've survived, lead. Because they only win if we stay quiet. And we're done with silence. The view count hit 1 million in one day. I received messages from nurses, janitors, even ex-Circle members who wanted to testify. But then, the Circle hit back. Jonah's servers were breached. The survivors list deleted. Every red dot gone. But we had backups, always, and as we rebuilt it, one name kept appearing in the new tips. A name I had never seen before, but one whispered with fear, the architect. The one who started it all, the one even my father answered to, and the one person who could end everything if I could find them. But the next message I received didn't come by email or phone. It came in a package, no return address. Inside was a single cassette tape and a handwritten note, "You're ready now, press play." The cassette tape felt heavier than it should have, as if it carried not just sound, but history, blood, secrets. The label was blank, no date, no markings, just a faint smear of ink at the top. Maybe a fingerprint. I hadn't seen a cassette in years. Jonah overnighted a converter, and as soon as it arrived, I locked myself in my apartment, pulled the blinds, and hit play. Static. Then, a voice, Mel, calm, older. "If you're listening to this, it means the Circle has failed. To stop you, good. I always believed it would take a Carter girl." I froze. My throat tightened. "You don't know me yet, but you will." They call me the architect. I prefer designer of control. What you've uncovered, Everpine, Theta Lab, Whitmore, were all side projects, prototypes. The real Circle didn't live in one building. It lives in ideology, in fear, in systems. I didn't just build a trafficking ring. I built a belief that silence is power, and those who scream are expendable. My hands were shaking. The voice continued. "Lila came close, brave girl. But she trusted the wrong whisper, and she paid the price. Your father, weak, useful, but not essential. He was never built to lead. You, Ayler, you were. That's why I left this for you. Because I want you to find me." My pulse thudded in my ears. "I'm giving you the choice Lila never got. Truth or safety. If it's truth, come to the place she died. Not where they found her, where they left her. The woods behind Havenfall. There's a bunker. Hidden. Inside it is the ledger. The real one. Not the diary. Not the drives, the source. But know this. If you go, there's no coming back. You become part of this story. Or you vanish like the rest." The tape ended with coordinates, and then silence. For a long time, I didn't move. My mind raced with everything I'd uncovered, and the possibility that this architect was orchestrating everything from the shadows. The all time, Jonah warned me, "This is bait. Ayler, you go alone. You might not come back." I nodded. "But if he's real, if he's the center, then this ends where it started." I pack light. I left a sealed envelope with Jonah. All my passwords, backup contacts, everything. I flew back to Havenfall, the place Lila had tried to escape from, the place I swore I'd never return to. I arrived just before midnight, the moon a dull sickle in the sky. I followed the GPS deep into the forest, past the creek where they'd found Lila's necklace, past the broken tree she carved her initials into. And then I saw it, a rusted hatch, buried beneath layers of leaves. The bunker I pried it open. The air was stale, old, like no one had breathed in it for years. I climbed down a metal ladder into the darkness, flashlight trembling in my grip. The room was cold. Cement walls, shelves of files. And in the center, a desk. Atop it, a black book, thick, leather-bound, gold embossed, Circle Master Index. My breath caught. This was it. The names, the money, the transfers, every operation. I opened it. The first page read, Phase 1, Control through Isolation. The second, Phase 2, Silence through Reprogramming. The third, phase. 3. Expansion through influence, page after page, name after name, governors, CEOs, doctors, military, clergy. The scale was unthinkable. And then I saw hers, Lila Carter, labeled interference, eliminated. I nearly dropped the book. She was listed. They cataloged her like a task completed. I took photos, scanned pages, uploaded it all to the encrypted server. As I finished, I heard footsteps above, slow, purposeful. The architect. I ducked behind the shelves. He descended, humming a tune, low, airy. Then he spoke. You made it, Iller, just like I hoped. I stayed hidden, silent. I want you to understand, he said. What we built, it wasn't evil. It was order. The world is chaos. We brought structure, purpose, and yes, silence. But silence saves lives too. My voice cracked. Not hers. He stopped. Lila was strong, but reckless. You, though, you're smarter. You think I join you? I spat. You think this is a recruitment? He laughed. No, this is succession. I stepped out. I'd burn this whole thing to the ground before I ever stand beside you. Then do it, he said. Destroy the ledger, kill me, but you'll only delay it. The circle isn't me. It's a system, a virus. Cut off one head, and 3 grow back. I raised the stun gun Jonah had given me. I'm not here to delay it. I'm here to expose it. I fired. He dropped. Convulsing, I cuffed him, called the authorities with coordinates. Then I live streamed everything, the book, his confession, his face. By morning, his image was on every screen in the country. The circle's heart, exposed, rests followed. More girls came forward. Survivor centers opened. Congress held hearings. I testified. I cried. I screamed. And then I healed. Not all at once, not completely, but enough to look in the mirror and say, we did something impossible. We broke the silence, and still I wasn't done, because just last week, I got a package. Inside, a flash drive, no name, no return address, just one file, a list of names, and at the bottom, Phase 4, Rebirth. The circle wasn't gone. Not entirely, it was rebuilding, and now, they were starting again. I stared at the flash drive for hours before I opened it. Not out of fear, but out of exhaustion. I had spent years tearing down the circle, thinking the fall of the architect would end it all. That once the light hit the rot, it would never grow again. But evil never dies. It evolves. The file loaded slowly. Inside, one document, Phase 4, Rebirth. At first glance, it looked like a policy memo. Clean fonts, corporate language. Subtle branding in the corner I didn't recognize. But then I read the content. My blood ran cold. Phase 4 begins when primary structure collapses. Survivors are reabsorbed. Whistleblowers are neutralized. Narrative control is re-established through 3 pillars: healthcare, technology, and philanthropy. I scrolled. Under the neutralization section, I saw names: mine, Jonah's, Avery Quinn, Amir. Every person who had stood by me, labeled as disruptors. Level 1 priority. A second section, reintegration targets. And Lila's name was still there, crossed out with a blood red mark. Then came photos. Smiling men and women at charity galas, tech CEOs launching, AI mental health startups, hospitals funded by new anonymous donors. But every name was a ghost from the circle, reborn under new aliases. They weren't hiding anymore. They were being celebrated. I felt sick. I called Jonah. His voice was tight. I got it too. The same drive, different file. What's in yours? I asked. Survivor profiles, psych evaluations. They've been watching us, Ila. Every live stream, every speech, even the safe house logs. They have everything. I was silent. They're coming back stronger. He said, cleaner, legal. So we go public again. I whispered, we tell them. And what if they spin it? He asked, what if we host in their machines? Every gala they threw. I hacked the live stream and projected survivor names on the walls. Every tech press conference, we drop documents from Facebook to journalists mid-broadcast. But still, they kept rising. Their message was clean. We are hope. Their branding, soft colors, smiling children, clean energy. No one wanted to believe the truth. Until one day, someone inside Facebook reached out. Codename, Dandelion. Their first message read, I was born inside the circle, raised to be. It's there, I chose different. And I know where phase 5 begins. I blinked. Phase 5, Jonah and I both thought rebirth was the end game. But according to Dandelion, rebirth was just the mask. The real goal was transcendence. Phase 5. It starts in Geneva. Dandelion wrote, a summit called Futureon. All the new players will be there. If you want to stop them before they rebuild completely, you have to crash the birth of the new circle. I asked for proof. Dandelion sent a document, a boarding pass, first class. Name, Isla Carter. Date, 1 week from now, airport, Washington. Dallas, it was already paid for with cryptocurrency from an untraceable wallet. I shouldn't have trusted it, but I did because this was always about choices. Lila chose truth. Mara chose survival. I chose both. And now, I was boarding a plane to a city I'd never been to, chasing a ghost I'd never seen, trusting a source who could kill me. Jonah kissed my forehead before I left. Whatever happens in Geneva, just remember, we already won. You showed the world what was hidden. That never goes back in the box. I hugged him, then left. On the plane, I was surrounded by suits, influencers, and tech moguls, everyone smiling, everyone asleep, except me. I clutched the flash drive like a rosary. When I landed, a black car was waiting, no driver, just a screen that said, Miss Carter, please enjoy the ride. I didn't speak. I recorded everything. The ride ended at a hotel that looked more like a fortress, and always does, until you scratch the surface. And that's when I saw her, at the center of the stage, the keynote speaker, Dandelion, a woman no older than 30, but with thighs that held fire and ruin. She looked at me as she spoke. We've built a world on silence. Now it's time to break it. Welcome to the end of their story, and the beginning of ours. Then she smiled. And beneath the perfect stage, the screen glitched. Just for a second, just long enough to show one word, exposed. The circle had no idea what was coming. The Futureon summit was dressed in gold. Metaphorically and literally, the floors were marble, the lighting soft and strategic. The air scented like wealth and polished reinvention. If you didn't know better, you'd think this was heaven on earth. But I did know better. And now, I was standing at the center of it with a press badge, forged credentials, a hidden recorder, and a burning desire to unravel the circle's rebirth from the inside out. Dandelion, the woman who'd claimed to have been born in the circle's inner sanctum, had just taken the stage. Her presence was electric, like she was both revealing the truth and hiding it behind riddles. Her words were carefully chosen. This summit marks the future of healing. We gather not just to discuss the next wave of mental health solutions, but to implement them. The audience applauded, but I felt cold because I knew what that meant. Every time the circle said healing, they meant erasing. Every time they said solutions, they meant silence. Jonah was watching remotely, pulling real-time surveillance feeds and facial recognition scans on everyone attending. He messaged, 32 former circle members here under new names, 6 board chairs from Face for Orcs, when unknown VIP kept off all public schedules. That was our target, the ghost pulling strings behind Dandelion. I wandered the summit halls, pretending to be just another curious journalist. Panels on data-driven empathy, neural peace technology, and post-trauma reintegration all sounded like progress. But behind every buzzword was a buried body. I saw it in the vendors too. Companies offering wearable devices to stabilize thought patterns, pills to suppress intrusive memory, and AI companions that replace unsafe connections. It was the circle again, shinier, legal, louder, I sat in on a closed-door breakout called Compliance Infrastructure. There, an executive with a French accent said, "We're piloting controlled environments across 5 continents. The goal is to eliminate variability in recovery outcomes. In other words, control the survivors, rewrite their minds." Dandelion found me after the session. "You saw the cracks," she said softly, her voice barely above the crowd. "You ready to tear it down?" I stared at her. "You're part of this. You helped build it. I was raised to inherit it." She replied, "But I chose to dismantle it from within." She handed me a badge, platinum, special access, then whispered, "Tonight, after keynote, sublevel 3, there's something you need to see." Jonah pinged again. "That unknown VIP. We have a match. Name, Rowan Locke. He's the architect's successor. Train offshore. Never appeared on record until this summit. He's scheduled to meet with global investors tonight." My heart raced. If I could expose him, this wasn't just another blow to the circle. It was a stake through its heart. That night, I followed the badge to sublevel 3. Security was tighter. Scanners, facial checks. I wore contact lenses Jonah had coded to reflect a preloaded identity. I passed. The sublevel wasn't a conference space. It was a lab, rows of glass rooms. Inside, girls, teenagers, hooked to machines, silent, peaceful, like puppets in sleep mode. A technician passed me, holding a clipboard labeled Phase 5 Beta Trials, Geneva Cohort. They were testing their new product, real people, real girls. I slipped into a dark observation booth, and there he was, Rowan Locke, tall, composed, ageless. His voice was clinical. "The new protocol eliminates trauma entirely. No memory, no pain, no rebellion. The patient is reborn with gratitude." I couldn't breathe. This was genocide of the soul. I recorded every second, every word. I sent a live data stream to Jonah. He messaged, uploading to whistleblower forums. Now, splicing to news networks, going global in 5. But then the lights cut out. Alarms, emergency lockdown. A voice over the intercom. "Security breach detected. Facility is compromised." Someone had tipped them off. I ran down the back corridor, up the service elevator. The ground floor was chaos, guards shouting, guests screaming. I ducked into a catering tunnel, heart pounding, as gas flooded the main lobby. Not poison, a suppressant, designed to knock out and wipe short-term memory. They were trying to erase the witnesses. I shoved a gas mask over my face and grabbed 2 others, handed one to a teenage intern who looked half-conscious. "Run, never come back." I reached the rooftop. Dandelion was already there, holding a tablet. "They know," she said. "You uploaded too fast. You told me to," I said. "You wanted this exposed." "I did," she said. "But I didn't know Rowan had activated Phase 6. My blood froze. "Phase 6, mass correction," she whispered. "They're not just erasing people. They're going to rewrite the past. Their tech, it's ready. They call it Project Eden." "Where?" I demanded. "Underground city," she said. "Somewhere in South America. Hidden. No records. They built it to be the new base. All trials will be moved there in 2 days." I looked at her. "Come with me." She shook her head. "I was part of this too long. They'll never believe me." "But you, they listen to you." "I don't want to be a symbol," I said. "Too late." She smiled. "You already are." She handed me a drive, everything on Eden, and one last gift. Then she stepped backward and disappeared into the smoke. I never saw her again. But her sacrifice bought us time. Jonah and I released the footage globally. Overnight, Futurion was shut down. Locke vanished. The summit collapsed. But I had the Eden coordinates. I knew where the Circle's final city lived. And I swore, the next time I stepped into their world, I would not leave until every last light went out. For Lila, for Mar, for Dandelion, for every name on the list. And for the girls who hadn't even been born yet. Because I wasn't just finishing their story. I was writing a new one. The flight to South America was quiet. But my mind was anything but. Dandelion's final gift. The flash drive labeled Eden revealed everything, blueprints of a self-sustained underground city carved deep into the Andes, camouflaged by charitable front companies and a fake climate research station. Its mission wasn't survival, it was control, a world rebuilt in silence, where the Circle's ideology could thrive beyond governments, beyond laws, beyond witnesses. I landed in Bolivia with Jonah's help and crossed into the remote borderlands under the name Lina Moore, an environmental engineer. The mountains stretched like ancient guardians, but I knew better. They weren't guarding us, they were guarding them. The path to Eden wasn't on any map. It was buried behind myths and mercenaries. But Jonah's intel from Dandelion's drive got us there. On the third night, I found it. A rock cliff that opened like a vault when I triggered the hidden sensor with the passcode ILA03. I stepped inside. What I saw wasn't a bunker. It was a city. White lights, metal corridors, glass towers underground, silence humming like a secret. The Circle had rebuilt, bigger than ever, and no one on Earth knew. But I did. Jonah was tracking me from above, guiding me through comms. They're watching everything, your signal's bouncing. But you've got 30 minutes before detection. I moved fast. I had one mission. Find the central core, where Project Eden's neural control hub was located. That's where they programmed the new minds, the orphan girls, the missing teens, even kidnapped activists, into what the Circle called clean slates. I saw them in the halls, smiling, obedient, beautiful, blank. Each wore a bracelet, no name, just a number. As I passed, one girl locked eyes with me. Just for a second, her lips didn't move, but her eyes screamed. I whispered, "I'm here. I see you." She blinked, a tear slipped, and I knew their minds weren't gone, just buried, suppressed, waiting. That gave me fire. I reached the core. It was a circular chamber. Dozens of screens showing real-time feeds from Eden and connected satellites. A single figure stood at the center. Back to me. He turned slowly. Rowan Locke, the successor, the last shadow. He smiled. "I knew you'd come, just like your sister." "Don't say her name," I hissed. "You built this off her death, off thousands of others." "No," he said. "I built this because your world wanted it. You think governments protect the broken. You think courts give justice to the damaged. No, we do. We erase what hurts. We create peace. You create ghosts." I said, "You bury truth and call it therapy. Truth is overrated," he said. "What matters is order, safety. No war, no chaos, just calm. Calm is in peace. Silence is in healing." He tilted his head. "Then what's your plan, Ilar? Kill me? Destroy the core? The Circle will just rebuild. We're not an organization. We're an idea." "No," I whispered. "You're a virus. And this is your firewall." I pressed the trigger on Jonah's remote protocol. The lights flickered. Locke's smile faded. "What did you do?" he asked. "The flame," I said. "It wasn't just a survivor network. It was a weapon, a code, a beacon. And your system just downloaded it. All over Eden." Screens flashed red. Sirens wailed. Doors unlocked. Every clean slate bracelet disconnected. Girls blinked, staggered, remembered. The scream I heard echo through the halls wasn't terror. It was awakening. Locke lunged, but I fought back. Every punch was for the girls, for Lila, for Mar. For Dandelion. He fell to the floor, unconscious. Jonah's voice came through. Evac route open. "But you've got 10 minutes before auto lockdown." I ran through the chaos. Girls were flooding the halls, crying, shouting names they thought they'd forgotten. "You're free," I yelled. "Run." Some followed. Some stood frozen. But none were silent anymore. I reached the outer hatch, looked back one last time, and then I hit the final switch. A full internal data dump of Eden broadcast to every global network, every embassy, every survivor group. The world they saw Eden for what it was. Not a utopia, but a prison. Not healing, but erasure. And when I emerged into the dawn, into the real world again, it felt like I was breathing for the first time. The next weeks were a blur. Hearings, Headlines, reunions, parents wept on live TV as they found daughters they thought were dead. Journalists called me the ghost hunter. Survivors called me family. Rowan Locke vanished. A global manhunt began. Some say he died in the collapse. Others say he's hiding in another lab, trying to rebuild. I don't care, because the circle is shattered, their secrets are ashes, and their silence is over. I returned to Lila's grave on the 1-year anniversary of Eden's fall. I placed the old cassette tape there, the one that started it all. We finished it. I whispered, "You started the war." I just carried the torch. Behind me, dozens of survivors stood in the grass, holding candles. Some sang, some cried, all of them alive. I took the stage at the memorial, cleared my throat, and said, "Before you listen to this story, let me tell you this. Not every broken home has loud fights. Some homes break in silence. Some girls disappear in plain sight. My name is Isla Carter." And this was the story of how silence became my survival, and then became my revenge. The crowd rose, applauding, screaming, crying. The circle was dead, and we, the forgotten, the broken, the erased, we were writing our own stories now, and we would never be silent again.